Hi, it's Helen Tarrant. Welcome to another episode of Commercial Property Roadshow. Today I'm actually going to show you how to build out your portfolio step by step. There's been a lot of questions from my viewers and also from my clients regarding how you would actually build out a portfolio. So today I'm actually going to show you how you can build out that portfolio. So let's go and I'll share screens with you so I can show you some potential properties. Now these are not definitive properties for you. These are not properties I'm recommending, but these are how you would potentially look at the same profile and the same type of properties if you're starting out in the commercial property space. They're all sub 1 mil. Of course, I deal also anywhere from 300,000 to all the way to $5-6 million of properties. But I'm looking at it for the most and the bulk of your investors who are starting out in commercial property and looking at getting started and how you would build out your portfolio. And of course, feel free to reach out to me at helentarrant.com. Send me a message through there. I can jump on the call with you and work out specifically if any one of these or a totally different type of property will suit you. So let's get started, and I'll share this screen with you so you get to see what I'm seeing at the moment. So let's see here. Now, the most important thing is I want to show you how, if you were starting out and you were building out a portfolio, what you would do. So for me, if I was to go to somewhere like, say, Real Commercial, let's do what I'm going to do today is cover, like, say, for example, Toowoomba. So it can be anywhere in Australia, it can be New South Wales, Victoria, it can be regional Queensland, but I'm just having to choose Toowoomba because it's large enough population. So Toowoomba, if we look at the census, is actually showing us 2016, the census are showing us that it is 160,000 people in Toowoomba in the local area. And if we go down there, we'll look at the median age is 37, and there's a good spread of male and female. So that just basically tells you that it's got a younger population, it's got a good workforce there, and obviously it's got all that industry in there as well. If you want to have a look at the more, you can always go to the census, and it breaks it down for you where it is, where it covers, and obviously we've got the surrounding areas of Dalby and Warwick. Now Dalby is more of a mining area, and Warwick is more of into your agricultural type properties. So, and where Toowoomba is within driving distance of Ipswich as well as Brisbane. So it's about 90 minutes from Brisbane. So allow 2 hours for the drive to Brisbane. So it's definitely accessible for the everyday person. But of course, it is important to look at that, how it would impact if you're starting to build out a portfolio. So let's get started. So this property here is a prime type of property I would look at if I was looking at starting out a portfolio and I didn't have enough money to buy 1 and 2 and 3 together. So I was looking at the first one, engineer some growth, and do the second one. So what I'll do is I would buy a property similar to this. So there's a couple of options. If you can finance, then you might want to go with a property that's have more vacancies, that you need more work. If you can't finance and you need a property to actually help you finance, then something similar like this would work. And that's purely because, let's have a look, it's about 800,000. It's vacant possession. And if we go down, we can see this split into 2 levels, and that actually the first floor is currently leased on a 1-year lease, which means that it gives you some income during this period to help you as you tidy up the property. Now, let's have a look at the property. So the property itself is in the main streets, which is important in a metro location, and it's got upstairs. Upstairs doesn't look so bad. It looks good here. It needs a brief tidying. It looks like it's probably used for some kind of a dance or a studio of some sort. This plate looks a little bit run down, so we need to tidy that up. We might need to polish up the floorboards. Now, one of the things when we come to the back of it, this starts needing a little bit more work. And of course, here we need to figure out what we're going to do here. So this really requires a site inspection for us to be able to work out whether we can actually make this property work or not. And of course, you've got downstairs and upstairs, so that must be the entrance to upstairs, and you've got radio rentals there. And radio rentals from this picture looks like it's vacant, so we're not sure if the tenant has vacated or whether the tenant's still on a lease. Preferably, you want the tenant to still be on a lease while you tidy up upstairs and then re-tenant upstairs and downstairs. Now, if that's the case and they're not, then maybe this is a too large a property to get started as your first property. So the other options I had a look at possibly is a property here. So there's a couple of properties. So we've got a couple of large properties here. We've got a giant warehouse here in Rockville. And this is just me picking it off the internet randomly. I just did a quick search of a few minutes before we jumped onto this YouTube call. And we can see that it is a giant warehouse. For one of these, one of the potentials is you need to look at whether you can divide this warehouse up. So some things you can do is, can it be split into two? So it's got two roller doors. Can it be split into two tenancies in there? Does it have the amenities for the two tenants, or can they share amenities? The other thing is, it seems like it's got an office space section that may need to be taken down so that it becomes a bare shell. And can you do it smaller than that? And the other question you ask is, can you perhaps potentially do it higher, go higher, like if the roof and ceiling is high enough, and you can put storage in there and do self-storage. So there's lots of ways you could use this property, but it's about being really innovative. And if you are starting out with a property like this, you want to be able to buy it at a really good price, have the money set aside. So for something like this, you should have about 20% of the purchase price set aside to be able to do any of the refurbishments. That's major capital cost, any of the uplifts of that property, and also the tenanting and the incentives to get the tenants in there. So seems like it has a back shed as well, so you may be able to get 3 or 4 tenants in there. So let's have a look at, with something like this, we will need to look at what would be the potential rent on this property. So it's 825,000 plus GST. It's 2,000 square meters of land, so the land's quite substantial. It's about 1,300 of square meters of warehouse. It's near new and it's near the Toowoomba development site, hospital development site. So this potentially in the future, if you held it for the long period, you could actually give you the uplift you wanted. So it's separated into 2 buildings. Shed one's 890 square meters, Besser block and metal. Second is metal. So 2 front roller doors to bring it back, amended kitchen in shed 2. So we don't know what's in shed 1. Fully fenced, low impact industry. So low impact industry means your kind of mechanics, not so much your freight, but just your local trades are there. So one of the things I would ask the agent for something like this is, what is the expected rent? Because if I'm doing the work, I want to be able to buy it at a good enough price, potentially let's say 10% lower, so let's say mid 700s, and I want to be able to engineer a 10 to 11% yield on this property. So it will take time, and it will probably take somewhere around maybe potentially 12 months, 18 months to get it all tenanted and done properly. But ultimately, if I was to get $80,000 rent on this property and I got it for say 700 or 750, and I put the extra money in, I'd probably be able to engineer close to the 10%. Now the yield in Toowoomba with a tenanted property, especially with this, it's industrial, which is sought after at the moment, multi-tenanted. If they're all on say good lease, minimum lease 2 to 3 years, a lease with solid tenants in there, then they would sell in this market somewhere around that 7.5% mark. So if you were to look at a property that is say like you were able to put $75,000 in there in terms of the tenant, then and you bought it and all up costs you've spent say $850, so 75,000 divided by 7.5. That's $1 million. So that property is worth $1 million. You might have spent $850 on it. So you're actually gaining $150,000 in terms of equity gain on that property. So that's how you would work that property. You refinance, pull that out, and do it again. Potentially there is more to it depending how much you get this property for. Some other options on the smaller properties. I quite like this property. It seems really, really neat and tidy. And it seems to used to be a mechanic's workshop. It's got a back area. This got a hoist in it. Look, this probably needs a good refurbishment. So this for a tidy up will probably cost you somewhere around that 20, potentially 20, 30 grand to strip it out and to bring it back to quite a new state. And so it wouldn't be 480,000 plus GST. You want to take that back to at least mid 400s, if not early 400s, to start doing the refurbs and retenanting. Now, with this type of property, you probably be able to rent that out for 40 or 45,000 in between, depending on what type of tenant you put in there and how good the fit out they're going to put into it, so how clean you strip it back and what they're going to put into that property. So that potentially is also a good uplift as well. You could get 100 grand out of there in terms of an uplift, and that's how I would start out with my first type of property. From there, there's if I was to then go into a set and forget, I could buy a property similar to this. Obviously, this is more expensive, 1.69 million, not something that I would buy for as a first property. But let's say you wanted to build out a $10 million portfolio, then definitely this is somewhere you want to consider down the line. Now, this property actually has a short lease, so it's not suitable for us as such, but I want to show you the format of it. It's large format industrial, it's in regional areas, so traditionally this type of property will end up getting you the highest yield. So if we were to go to another town like Harvey Bay or Rockhampton or any of the parts in North Queensland, or even further down into the more industrial areas in New South Wales, you'll find properties like this probably yielding somewhere around that 8% mark, and you'll all be between that 1 to 1.5 mil, and that gives you a good cash flow, especially if you're getting 3% right now in the market. Getting about 8% clears you about $50,000 in positive cash flow. This is another one of these small properties if you want to do an uplift. It's vacant possession. The land size is quite substantial, but it's got a small shed on it. So with this, it's a little bit different. Potentially you would want to build on this property, sort of extend it and build onto it, because 182 square meters probably won't get you the rent you're after on this property unless you do further development. You're really buying it just a bit over land value as well on this property. So whereas you've got the 810, you probably want to expand on that. So that's how I would see you starting out. So you start out with a property that is small enough for you to manufacture some growth, and then with that you leverage and you buy a set and forget type of property, or you can split your deposit up and buy one set and forget, because you always need that consistent cash flow, and then you add another uplift. So if you are good at doing this uplift, you want to be doing them once a year, and they are going to be quite intensive the first time you do it, but as you do it more often, they are going to get less and less over time as well. So one of the potential set and forgets you could buy is a property like this. So this is in Victoria, and Eltham is a suburb in Victoria. So it's actually Melbourne, just outside of Melbourne Rim. And it is a dentist. So you can see it's well established. It's got that lovely purple color that I like. And it's in a shopping centre, shopping mall. The tenant signed an initial 7-year lease. At the moment, still got 2 years to go. It is only got a 6%, but ultimately, if you're getting a 6%, one of the things to consider is that you are getting a growth property, that in time, the growth property will actually grow in value as the leases continue to grow and the increases continue to grow on that property. So with something like this, you can always negotiate, but that is what we would call a growth property. So if you're looking at your commercial property journey, one of the reasons to always look out for is how do you build that consistent cash flow while you manufacture growth. You've got to go step by step along the way so that you can continue to buy and continue to build, because ultimately it is also about building out the portfolio. If you continue to do your flip properties, which is your manufactured growth, you're never going to actually have consistent cash flow you can hold on to. So it's important to actually get that consistent cash flow as well every time you do an uplift deal. So with that in mind, really mapping out your journey and working out if your journey is going to be the right one for you as opposed to someone else. It is really, really important that you talk to a professional. It doesn't have to be me, someone in the industry, but if you do want a personalized blueprint, you want someone to help you and work out if the commercial property is right for you in terms of your long-term goals, then reach out to me at helen@commercialpropertycashflow.com.au, or reach out to me at helentarrant.com. Send me a message. More than happy to jump on a call with you. I do lots and lots of strategy calls, and I help lots of people get into their first commercial property and also then build out their portfolio. So I really enjoy teaching you. We also have a community, so please join our community as well. So once you get on a strategy call, we can add you to our list, and you can join our to our webinars and join part of our community and join our boot camps and everything else as well. So Your journey, very, very important. Cash flow, growth, uplift. So those three things: cash flow, growth, uplift. Make sure you have all three of those things in your portfolio so you can continue to grow. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.